The future is wider than vision and has no end. Good evening and welcome. This is Face the Nation. Our topic of discussion today is electricity tariff hike, unpopular, but is it really necessary? Joining us this evening on the show are Dr. Rohantha Abesekara, Acting General Manager, Ceylon Electricity Board, Damita Kumarasinghe, Director General, Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka, as well as Dr. Narendra De Silva, General Manager of the Lanka Electricity Company. Let's start off tonight's show with Dr. Rohantha Abesekara, Acting General Manager of the Ceylon Electricity Board. Dr. Abesekara, when we thought there was some sort of glimmer of hope in terms of electricity outages were concerned, it was reduced to 1 hour. Now from tomorrow onwards, it has been increased for 3 hours again. And this has been attributed to a breakdown in Sri Lanka's Newsfirst.lk power plant. And now we are again into the long-ranging power cuts experienced in the country. What is the reason behind this? The Newsfirst.lk power plant seems to be breaking down very constantly. This is the second time this year it has happened. Why?
This has been a difficult year for us. There are a lot of constraints. First, it was the hydro, limited hydro thing. After that, it was the fuel, diesel and heavy fuel. Now, and also we had constraints on the coal power. Now, this is basically because we could not secure the full amount of coal required, and also there was some scheduled maintenance work for Newsfirst.lk, and that was after more than 7 years of running. Right. Our major overhaul was overdue for more than 2 years, and this unit 3, which is now had to shut down on emergency conditions, was running without some maintenance. So because this also highlights we need more capacity to the nation, and lack of capacity has constraints on our scheduled maintenance. So that is one reason why we are facing this situation today.
Dr. Rohantha, how far is it true that the maintenance work by the Ceylon Electricity Board engineers are not being carried out systematically, and that is why that we are seeing blackouts happening right throughout the year with regard to the Keravalapitia or even the Newsfirst.lk power plants?
Keravalapitia is an IPP, independent power producer, and Newsfirst.lk is CB owned. We have normally scheduled type A, B and C type of maintenance, and that is normally scheduled way ahead. But the difficulty in getting down the spares, difficulty in getting down some key experts required for the maintenance had delayed this maintenance on this unit 2.
So you're saying that unit 2 is the problem with regard to the current issue prevailing, the Newsfirst.lk power plant?
No, unit 2 is already under overhaul,
right.
Type A overhaul, and that was scheduled for about 75 days, but it needed to an extension further by about 2 months. So only we've stopped the machine, started the machine for overhaul on July 17th.
Right.
And it was scheduled to start generating again in September, but because of this extension, it is now only available at the end of October.
But isn't it the unit 1, the steam leak in the boiler in unit 1, which has created a huge problem with regard to what is happening right now?
Yes.
Right now the problem is the boiler unit.
On unit 1.
Unit 1, the boiler unit, am I correct?
Yes.
In 2020, a lot of money was spent to replace the tubes in this boiler system as well. But this has again been very problematic. What is the reason behind this?
So this needs regular
Because
maintenance.
you say that an overhaul has not been done for a significant amount of time, but in 2020 there was an overhaul done in the boiler unit of the Norachole power plant.
There are 3 units.
Yeah.
I don't know which one you are referring to.
I'm referring to Unit 1.
Unit 1. No, this
Which is a problem right now.
Yeah. If I can remember correctly, it was, the boiler tubes were not replaced at that instance.
In 2020, boiler tubes were not replaced?
Not replaced. I heard today, I understand that it was only the first time that we are replacing these boiler tubes.
Right. What is the reason for the electricity tariff hike right now, Dr. Rohantha Besekara? What is the reason behind this?
The cost of producing electricity has gone up. And we have not increased the tariff since 2013. When everything else is increasing, the exchange rate was at that time around 130 rupees per US dollar, and the oil prices were far below, and now it is almost increased like 2 times over, and those are the reasons for increasing why we needed the tariff revision.
So the International Monetary Fund does not have any hand with regard to imposing the CEB to come into an agreement with the Public Utilities Commission to have a cost-reflective tariff system in Sri Lanka?
So that is actually in the Act of Electricity Act. The cost-reflective tariff is a requirement.
Right.
And since 2013 or even earlier, we have passed 2 tariff periods where the cost-reflective tariff was specified, and we have a tariff methodology according to which the tariff has to be decided on cost-reflective basis.
Right. So that is happening now. But I'm asking you, Dr. Rohantha, was the IMF behind this current increase in tariffs as far as electricity bills are concerned?
I cannot specifically say whether they have said or not.
You don't have any information with regard to that?
Officially, I don't have.
Right. Are you also aware that right now it is difficult times that the people are facing, and you all have requested for a 225% or 229% increase in electricity tariffs, and the Public Utilities Commission has only approved 75% thus far?
In fact, we have asked at several occasions. The one that was processed was about 84% increase that we have made in March this year. So at that time, the costs were different, the oil prices were different to what it is now. And based on that, our proposal was to get a tariff increase about 84%. So
but
that
you
is the one that
to
was
increase the prices by 229%, if I'm not mistaken.
That was subsequent proposals.
Right.
But what the PUCSL has processed was the one that we submitted in March 2020, this year.
This year. So since 2013, you all have been telling the PUSL to increase electricity tariffs?
That is there in the tariff methodology.
No, I'm asking you, has the CEB informed the PUSL about it? From 2013 onwards?
If I can remember, definitely in 2016 we have asked.
Right, but they have not agreed to it.
Well, it was not successful.
Do you know any reasons behind that?
It didn't come through.
Right now, Dr. Rohantha, the loss incurred by the CEB for the first quarter of 2022 is approximately 65 billion Sri Lankan rupees. It's a significant amount of money.
Yeah, so that gives an indication how much we have been bearing the cost. So like oil prices have, like it was double, more than double. So we are depending about 1/3 of our generation on hydro and 1/3 on coal, and the balance with oil and heavy fuel and other renewables.
So CEB is supposed to be one of the major loss-making companies as far as state-owned enterprises are concerned. Am I right, Dr.
So
Rohan?
when you don't pay the correct tariff, naturally any organization will face that situation.
But yeah, you say that any organization will face such a situation. But from 2010 to 2020, based on the recent COPE meetings, which was chaired by Charity Herat, even pay tax had to be paid off by using public funds, which
It's
has
now
which
paid
has
by
been
the individuals.
no, but from 2010 to 2020, it's the figure is put at approximately around 5 billion Sri Lankan
When this
rupees.
PIT tax was introduced, it was paid by CEB employees.
But that's after 2020.
I'm not aware of the exact timing, but all the payments were made according to this.
But how can a state-owned enterprise make profits when there are systematic problems within the system itself? Example, employees not paying pay taxes. In any company, may it be the corporate world, in Sri Lanka, pay taxes have to be paid by the employees concerned. But why is it an exception to the CEB employees?
What is the amount of money we are talking here? So
it's approximately 5 billion Sri Lankan rupees. Is it too small?
It's much less.
This was revealed at the COPE committee meetings, which was held in July.
Yeah. So now it is paid by the individuals.
No, but I'm asking you, are you saying that 5 billion rupees is less for the public in Sri Lanka?
That was for the annual.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a significant amount.
Yeah.
So all the payments were made with the approval of the board. So the board must have a good reason why it should be absorbed by the.
So are you in any way not surprised or surprised that the Ceylon Electricity Board is going at a loss because of issues prevalent within the system itself?
All these the pay tax, I just asked about this pay tax. So there was an agreement between the board and the unions where they have agreed to this effect.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Rohan Davesekar, Acting General Manager of the Ceylon Electricity Board. We, of course, will speak to Dr. Rohan momentarily as the show goes on to ask questions about the mechanisms in which the Ceylon Electricity Board is functioning right now, and also what was the basis in which electricity tariffs were put to an exorbitant 75%. But before that, I want to quickly pick Damita Kumar Singh, Director General of the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka's Sri Lanka. Damita, interestingly, as you heard very well, Dr. Rohantha said that since 2013, they have been requesting for tariff hikes in the Ceylon Electricity Board. And he did not directly say it, but he inclined to say that it was the Public Utilities Commission that was standing in their way to increase prices. And even in 2016, Dr. Rohantha mentioned that he is aware that a proposal was made to the Public Utilities Commission, and the Public Utilities Commission did not give any heed. And you've been attached to the Public Utilities Commission since its inception. How far is this statement true?
Yeah, Shamir, good evening. Now, actually, 2013, it was a tariff hike, as Dr. Rohantha said. Then 2014, there was a request for reducing the tariff, which we have granted. So that was the tariff that has been prevalent till couple of days ago. And after 2014, a tariff increase was requested in 2016 by CEB. And PUCSL has not granted that tariff increase because they had a surplus year in 2015. When you compare 2015 and 16 together, there was no loss. So that's therefore PUCSL, the Commission has not granted any tariff increase. So since then, there were no requests for tariff increases, and they have requested tariff increase in 2022, which we have taken a decision on.
So you're trying to tell me that since 2013, there has not been any formal request made to the PUSL with regard to tariff increases, or?
No. They have made a request in 2014 to reduce. and 2016 to increase. Yeah.
And since that, no proposal has been made.
No.
Does the PUSL in any way believe that political parties or ministers who were in power, in order to gain an advantage to themselves at elections, did not request for a price increase?
That I cannot comment on, but what I am saying is that if any organization respond to an incentive, financial incentives, for example, your organization, you respond to financial incentive, where the profit is, you go there. You try to get that profit out.
Right.
So if you don't respond to financial incentive, then it is very difficult to get an organization up and running, number one. Number two, when you have a regulatory system, this works based on the financial incentive. So if you don't respond to the financial incentive, then it is very difficult to regulate a sector also, on the other hand.
So what are you trying to say when you say financial incentives? Are you saying that the CEB staff are being overpaid?
No. It's not nothing to do with the staff. What I am saying is, as an organization or any organization, if it does not respond to financial incentive. So if you don't try to make your organization profitable, which is the incentive, so that incentive, anybody should respond. So if you are not asking for tariff increases and if you are not responding for the financial incentive to make it profitable, I don't see any way that any other organization to take this forward.
Dharmendra, do you in any way believe that state-owned enterprises, especially like the CPC, like the Ceylon Electricity Board, at least need to be privatized now? Because the government should not be in business that they are not supposed to be. And we've seen this happening right throughout. The government is in businesses like the transport sector, the petroleum sector, the electricity sector, so on and so forth. Do you think that at least this is the time that systematic change needs to be done, where the private sector involvement is imperative to move forward?
Actually, Shamir, now it is imperative that the reforms are required. What type of reforms that we are looking at is the next question, because we are based on 1960s acts, CEB Act, CPC Act, all are 1960s acts, and we need some more dynamic sectors to be in place in order to provide much more better service to the nation. For example, look at telecom sector. In mid-1990s, we had monopoly and we had huge prices. You remember, we were not able to make a call at that time because of the price, and we had to wait so many years to get a connection. But the technology changed, the market changed, competition came in, new investments came in, private sector came in, and now the prices are very low. You and I don't think of the amount of money that we spend on making a call today, and phones are available everywhere, more phones than the people in the country. So that's the market that has been created through technological change and the market changes.
Right. So I'm looking this in a perspective of a corporate company, because I also work for an organization, a private sector company. I'm heading operations. Usually what happens in an organization is the fact that when a company is making losses, you first of all look at the ways in which how to reform the sector, rather than putting in new regulations in place like tariffs and all that. Don't you think what is important right now is to look into the reasons behind the losses of the CEB, rather than trying to recover all that losses from the people? Isn't that the most prudent decision that needs to be made?
No, actually, Shamir, now even in the Electricity Act, you are only able to pass through the reasonable costs to the public. So burden of proof on the reasonability is with the utilities.
Right.
And number two, then to see whether this cost is reasonable, there are many mechanisms that we have imposed. or we have to go for a more competitive industry where the price is discovered through more competition.
Isn't it sad, Damita, Sri Lanka first lit its electric bulb in 1890, and today we have not been able to recover the mess that we are in at the moment as far as power generation is concerned. It's a long time and still not been been able to arrest the problems that we are facing at the moment. Isn't that sad?
Yes, so that's what I said. Now it's the time, even though it's little late, to reform the sector. Now in 2002 we thought of this. There was an act, Electricity Reforms Act in 2002, which was passed by the parliament also but didn't come into effect.
Right.
But 20 years ago also this change has been envisaged by the government, and acts were passed. So now 20 years down the line we need to take that forward. We need to have a more modern, more competitive industry where everybody from the government and private sector, everybody can compete in.
So I recollect, Damita, several years ago when we started off Face the Nation in 2015, you came on one of our initial shows and you said, if the CEB does not take action with regard to power generation in the country, by 2018 we will have a power crisis in the country. Do you think we are now seeing the effects of that power crisis that you envisaged in 2015?
Yes, actually, I think I also remember this program. What we said was that if we don't move forward with the power generation, then we will have a power crisis, and that is in two ways. One is lack of energy. That is the reason for power cuts and all those things. And number two is, if you don't have the low cost generation plants, then there will be an affordability issue. We are also facing that right now by procuring fossil fuel, liquid fuel at about 460, 450 rupees a litre, where the generation cost is about 100 rupees per kilowatt hour by generating through diesel and furnace. So at that point we are also facing a crisis in the price also.
Right. Thank you very much, Damita Kumar Singh, Director General of the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka. I now move my attention to Dr. Narendra De Silva, General Manager of the Lanka Electricity Company, which is a private company. Dr. Narendra, tell us a little bit about the work that you all do at LECO.
Yes, good evening, Samir. Yeah. Actually, we are distributing electricity in our franchise area, which ranges from Negombo to Galle, the coastal stretch of the country, and basically it is the distribution of electricity. It is absolutely same function as the CEB. CEB got 4 regions, so we are doing almost the same function.
Are you all profitable?
Yes, we are profitable.
Isn't that strange that the CEB is making losses and you all are profitable?
There's nothing strange.
What
it
is
actually? Yeah. It is actually there is a very interesting mechanism which we have developed in somewhere 2011-12 time, which we call the tariff methodology. And within this methodology, this system, the utilities have a guarantee that we can earn profit, provided that we fall into the context of this tariff methodology. But that's truly a painful process. You got to control your cost. You got to. It's a restrictive mechanism.
What is the operating profits of LECO in the first quarter of this year?
It is in the order of about 250 million.
While the Ceylon Electricity Board is making a 65 billion loss, having a majority stake in Sri Lanka, LECO is making a profit at the moment.
Yes, it is actually, and I mean, to be very frank with you, I don't like to attribute it to the LECO itself. To be very true with you, it is basically the tariff methodology.
Right.
So within this tariff methodology, if that we work closely with the tariff methodology, doing the submissions and being transparent, inevitably provided that the utility is operating efficiently and within this framework, that particular utility will be profitable. Not only LECO, even CEB, the four distribution utilities should be profitable.
It has to be.
It has to be. There's no question.
So why is it making losses?
It is because of this non-segregation of it is not operating as a separate entity. These distribution utilities are not operating as separate entities, number one. And other thing is that particular cost segregation and the cost transparency is not there.
So, Narendra, has your organization, which you are the general manager of, LECO, looked at taking over the other distribution points of the CEB at the moment? Has that been under discussion?
Not under discussion, but as Damita quite correctly said, me as a person who runs a business, I always there to do whatever the challenge I get. I think LECO is with me.
So you all are ready to even take over if the CEB
even a single
says
customer
that it is a white elephant, and whether you all are ready to take over, you all are ready to take over the staff at the CEB and then run the operations accordingly? No.
No, not exactly that, not exactly in that context.
Right.
What I want to tell you is, as a business, if I get even a single customer who is ready to get electricity from me, I'm there to go and give the connection.
Right. So let me just drag your attention a few years back, Dr. Narendra, to the Surya Bala Sangramya that your organization was a heavily part of with the Sri Lanka Sustainable Energy Authority, or the SLSEA. You all expected to add 1,000 megawatts of solar electricity to the national grid by the year 2025. You are just 3 years shy from that, and 1,500 megawatts by 2030 through the intervention of the Surya Bala Sangramya, or the battle for solar energy. How far have you all progressed in this front?
At the moment, we are recording in the order of about 100 megawatts in LECO, and altogether, CB and LECO altogether, I think it's in the order of about 580 megawatts. So basically, we are not very far from the target. At the same time, we are at the moment we are not progressing. To be very, I mean, it's a sad situation, but with the given economic circumstances of the country, and in the given context of tariff, that particular progress what we saw and enjoyed over the last couple of years is not there now. We got to get that straight as soon as possible.
But as you mentioned, with the current economic constraints plaguing Sri Lanka at the moment, do you see individual companies or even organizations or even people per se moving towards erecting solar panels in their homes with exorbitant interest rates to be paid right now?
True enough, given the interest, this macroeconomic setting of the interests, probably this is not the most conducive time for investment. But still, I think, given if the tariff comes, grid parity comes to the solar investment level, I believe that people are there to put their money forth and do the investment. So that potential is there. We feel that especially as a utility distribution company, quite close to our customers in the society, we still feel that the potential is there. Only issue at the moment is one thing, is this dollar constraint. I think it's a temporary issue. At least I would like to believe so. So
we all like to believe so, but I don't think it's going to be a temporary issue, at least not in the short term, but at least in the long term, we'll have to address these problems that we're facing at the moment. But right now, given the fact that solar energy is going to be very expensive to source, at least for individuals, what alternatives does the people have?
No, Samir, actually now, if the tariff goes off, this particular tariff revision, moment that this comes through, again the solar power becomes cheaper.
Cheaper. Okay.
So it is a question of cheaper against what?
No, but individuals don't have the capital to invest so much of money.
That issue is there. That's what I told you. That's the macroeconomic setting in the country is not investment conducive, number one. Number two is, even if somebody is there to invest rupees, there is a question of buying dollars. Apart from these two constraints, will and the interest among the public is there.
Right. So I want to open the floor for questions from our journalists. Joining us this evening on the panel are Dr. Rohan Abesekar, Acting General Manager of the Ceylon Electricity Board, Damita Kumar Singh, Director General of the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka, and Dr. Narendra De Silva, General Manager of the Lanka Electricity Board. What we gather from the first round is the fact that with proper management, any entity could be made profitable. That's the first giveaway that we can learn from the first round. Let me start off the journalist questions. I have Nadeem Majid on to my right. Long time, Nadeem.
Very long time.
Was vacationing in the East.
Not vacationing, working. Working from home, digital nomad.
Right. And then Shehan Ranadung is also joining us this evening, who's also the producer of Face the Nation. So let's start off the show with Nadeem.
Yeah, thank you, Shami. Since it's been a while, I think
it's apt for us to start off with you, yes.
Dr. De Silva, I think what I gathered from what you were saying about the tariff method, one thing to understand, I think, is that while LECO is a distribution, handles electricity distribution, the main difference with CB is CB also does generation. And I think that one of the biggest reasons for the CB's losses is because those losses come from the actual generation. And Dr. Abesekar, is that correct? If you remove the generation aspect of it, just on distribution alone, is the CB at break even?
Of our cost is on the generation.
Is on generation.
So like if you compare our distribution sectors also, like they are profitable.
They are profitable.
They are profitable. They are almost equal to LECO.
So what I don't understand then, Dr. Abesekar, is I mean, we've spoken to Mr. Kumar Singh about this as well in the past, and he was talking about, you know, the financial incentive for the company to make a profit. It's not always about just increasing the price of the product, right? So you look at other ways in which you can reduce costs by introducing efficiencies in the production process. And I think that what we have seen over the years is that the CEB has been resistant to introducing these efficiencies, because you mentioned in the power generation capacity as well, a third is done by hydro right now. Hydro accounts for, I think, according to the daily generation plan, just over about 40%, and then thermal coal. And then the IPPs, which are also mostly fossil fuel reliant. So it looks like over the past 10 years or 10, 15 years even, with renewable sources of energy like solar and wind becoming cheaper, more accessible, it looks like the CEB's reason to be loss-making is that the organization hasn't embraced new technology.
Well, you can't change the laws of physics, like say like 1 liter of diesel, it produces roughly about 4 units. So if you compare the prices today, it's over 100 rupees if you are generating it from oil, diesel. Whether we have not embraced the other technologies, we have been promoting solar right from the beginning. Actually, it was CEB who started this program, 1 million houses, and also Surya Bala Sangramya, and also later like Gamata Balagara. So we have been promoting rooftop solar for some time, and at the moment we have introduced where the applicants can make an application online, and they can get cleared within 2 weeks whether they can be connected to our grid or not, and they are given connections within that 2-week period after that. So like within a month we are giving connections to our customers.
Dr. Abesekar, when you say you've been promoting it though, what I find difficult to take that as the CEB has been promoting, because I know that there's a document that I was looking at some time back about the CEB's planned future to decommission thermal plants and introduce more renewables. But when you look at where the CEB is now, I don't see the CEB actually achieving those goals, because I think one of the previous discussions we had with Mr. Kumar Singh was when the long-term generation expansion plan was introduced, it had to go back and forth with the PUCSL and the CEB, because the PUCSL didn't endorse it because it wasn't in line with the government's policy of achieving, Mr. Kumar Singh, I believe it was 70% renewable at that time?
That time it was, I think, 50%. That
50%.
was 2016.
So the CEB's long-term generation expansion plan didn't factor in that 50% renewable capacity when the PUCSL rejected it.
No, it
So
was
if
not
that's
like
the
that.
case, if that's not in the long-term generation expansion plan, how can you say that the CEB was promoting it?
No, at that time it was 50% of energy. And
But it wasn't that the plan that you all gave to the PUCSL didn't envisage a 50%
it did.
of renewable.
It did. But at that time, PUCSL was targeting a 70% margin, where it was not properly put it in the government policy document, general policy guidelines. So after the government put it in the general policy guidelines, only that we can take it into our long-term generation plan.
But I mean, Dr. Abe said, whether the governments change from 5 years to 5 years, technology and science keep moving forwards. I mean, if like in another 5 years you get a government that says, oh, let's build that 300 megawatt the coal power plant in Sampur, then will the CEB also happily hop on with that and build the coal power plant? Because that's one of the things that I know that the CEB and the CEB Engineers Union has been fighting for, is that coal power plant in Sampur.
Yes, that would have solved most of the problems that we
But
are
it
facing
doesn't
today.
though, because you would still be encountering the same costs. Because like I think what Mr. Kumar Singh was saying is, you're looking at recovering your losses by increasing the price of the product, and you're neglecting the other methods by which businesses make profit, because they try to keep the product affordable. I think the CEB's problem is you don't have to worry about that because you're a monopoly. So you're able to price the product however you want with the PUCSL's permission, and you don't have to worry about introducing efficiencies into other stages of the production chain.
As Mr. Damita said, they have approving only the efficient costs. So till last year, 2021, our costs have been approved. So based on that, only we have submitted our tariff proposal.
Mr. Kumar Singh, when the PUCSL initially rejected the long-term generation expansion plan that was presented about 5 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, the PUCSL actually commissioned a report to show that, look, the statistics or the pricing that was given in this long-term generation expansion plan to justify not going for the renewable target was basically bogus. And you all put forward the actual pricing of these different, like per unit pricing for solar, wind, LNG, etc., and you showed that it's actually much lower. Whatever happened after that? What plan was actually adopted, and has that plan been stuck to?
No, actually, you are referring to the 2017 plan, which we have approved in 2018, 37 plan approved in 2017. There are two very important things in that plan. One is that plan clearly states that the next plan, that is 2019 plan, should be with 60% renewable energy. And number two, that in that plan also we have increased the amount of renewable energy looking at future. Now, I think if you can focus on this is the cost of energy in month of July. In month of July, you have produced 48% of energy from renewables, and your cost is about 10%. Of the total, yeah. Of the total. So including large hydros, all renewables. And if you look at liquid fuel, you generated about 18% of energy from liquid fuel, and the cost is 60% of the total entire cost. So 18% cost us 60%. And coal, you generated 33%, and your cost is about 30%. So look at the cost driver. Cost driver is this. So if you have increased the renewable penetration as we saw in 2017-60, I think we would have been in a better position.
So, Dr. Rohantha, interestingly, Damita puts a graph out explaining the fact that renewables are the way to move forward as far as Sri Lanka is concerned. When we very well know that we don't have coal, we don't have fuel, we are not a producing nation, why is the CEB always reluctant to move towards renewable energy?
Not that we are reluctant. We want energy sources that can be dispatchable. With solar, you can get power only during daytime. What about the night? So you have to have a solution.
Right.
Either you have to store it in batteries, or you have for a short term, or you have to, in a long term, maybe like pump storage networks, things like that. You have to invest on those things as well. So it is not just the cost of renewable, the rooftops that we enjoy. You have to take into account the investments that you need in the infrastructure. Maybe it's a network. As we know, renewables, especially the solar, is maybe like 4 or 5 hours a day. So during that time, you have to evacuate that energy totally to the load centers. So the network capacity is now increased maybe like more than twice or thrice. So your investment on the network is much higher. So like there was this program where, like, if you consider like this low cost renewables, like low income houses to be supplied with rooftops. So if they are in the same neighborhood, so like normally we have a 100K transformer, so we can supply about 100 customers. If each of these customers come up with a solar panel 5K, then we have to have a 500K transformer. And that is a big investment for CEB. Who is making that investment? Are we asking the customer to make that investment? Or
But Dr. Abe says it's better to make the capital investment now when this thing, rather than continue to be dependent on importing sources of energy that you have absolutely no control over.
You have to take a business decision. So you have to evaluate the two.
But it looks like the CEB's business decisions are all based on past technology, past things that happened in the past. The CEB doesn't, even in your long-term generation expansion plan, like if you read it, you don't see any planning for the future. You're making a 10, 15-year long plan, and the reliance is heavily on things from the past. I mean, coal is, at the end of the day, it's a 150-year-old, one of the dirtiest sources of energy in the world, where a lot of countries are looking at decommissioning it to reach their various targets. They're looking at, I mean, countries are starting to look again at nuclear and the future of which is potentially the most efficient fuel source that we have right now. And the CEB, for some reason, seems hell-bent on going back to these things, because we have absolutely no control over the prices fluctuate with oil, with coal, supply lines get restricted, like what's happening even with gas. You run into these problems, and it seems that the CEB is not a forward-looking entity, and the reason that it doesn't look forward is because it has no one to compete with.
Well, Najib, are you aware that recently Germany had to start their old coal power stations?
Germany had to start their old coal power stations because they decommissioned their nuclear power plants after Fukushima. If they didn't decommission the nuclear power plants, they won't need to go.
They didn't get the gas from Russia. So
yeah,
they had
I'm saying if they didn't decommission the nuclear power plants back in 2014-15, they would have had plenty of energy running.
So they must have decommissioned.
The only reason they had to do it is because they also went back to the past.
Yeah, so they have decommissioned their nuclear power plants for a valid reason.
I mean, you can argue whether the reason is scientifically valid or politically valid.
So
It is a politically valid reason, not a scientifically valid reason.
So don't we have to consider both?
You should consider both, but at the end of the day, you're not the politician, right? Are you telling me that the CEB engineers are politicians first and engineers later?
No, like if there's a government policy, they put it under government.
No, so the
policy
actual
guidelines.
government policy of the last two governments has been, one has been 70% renewable, and I think Gotabya's manifesto was for 80% renewable,
No.
right? Wasn't it 80% renewable in vistas of
As I
prosperity and
said
splendor?
earlier, it was like whatever.
It was adjusted to 70%. Yeah, it
But
was
still, I
readjusted.
mean,
So
it looks
any-
like there's
yeah.
a mismatch between what their politicians want and what the CEB engineers want.
But Dr. Rohantha, let's get into the nuts and bolts of what we're talking about today with regard to the losses being made by CEB and the objectives of the CEB to move towards renewables. Is there in any way that the CEB is gaining when we bring down coal and fuel to the country?
Still,
Does the CEB have a say on this?
still
or the
the
engineer?
coal is the cheapest fossil fuel for
But
us.
based on the graph that Damita showed us, it's very clear that renewable energy is the most suitable and the cheapest source of energy in Sri Lanka.
As Damita said, it has its own problems. So if you are prepared to light only during the daytime, yes, we can totally depend on solar. But we have to have solution in the night and on the cloudy days. So then comes the storage and the network. So that needs massive investments.
So you're saying that the CEB engineers are not making money in any way when it comes to bringing down coal and fuel to the country and going for emergency power.
I don't understand when you say CB engineers make money.
Does the CEB engineers make money when we bring down coal? Do they have a cut commission or any financial benefit when moving towards coal power or generating power through emergency means?
No, no way. Actually,
No way.
coal is imported purchased by Lanka coal, not from electricity board.
So there is no involvement of the CEB officials in this process?
We are involved.
Involved.
Yeah.
So
we
you
are
all have a say.
involved in the procurement process
You all are involved in the procurement process.
of Lanka coal.
Yeah. So when that happens, won't that give a way for corruption?
It's made on transparent mechanism
Right.
on tenders.
But the recent coal shipment that was supposed to come to Sri Lanka, was it transparent?
Always.
It has always been transparent.
Yeah.
Right. So I want to quickly ask Damita a question with regard to the generation of electricity. Damita, why is it that CEB is hell-bent on coal power plants and LNG power plants and so on and so forth, and not looking at the renewable energy aspect, in your opinion?
I don't have an answer to that, but I will tell you one thing.
Yeah.
Now, if we are to have an affordable electricity pricing, we need to increase the share of the renewables. It has nothing to do with the government policy, but that's the cheapest. Now, as I pointed out, when you have 18% of your energy generated and 60% cost is coming out of that, that is the simple cost driver. So you have to reduce the generation from liquid fuel as well as coal. Coal is also now very expensive, and replace with whatever the renewables you can. And if unless you do that quickly, we will have lot of issues in affordability, where people will not be able to afford energy. Now the people in this country cannot afford energy at 100 rupees a kilowatt hour, whereas now it's about 8 rupees for the first 30 units. So you can't make it 100 rupees. So this is the issue we are facing. This is the issue we have been advising the CEB and the other institutions over the last so many years to move quickly and stabilize the prices of energy through renewable energy. That's the only way. So what I am saying is, from at least now forward, we have to increase the share of renewable energy quickly. Whatever that can be absorbed into the system, you have to absorb it now.
Mr. Kumarasinghe, with regard to Dr. Abesekara's point regarding, with solar, the limitations of solar, if you have during the daytime, then what are you going to do during the night?
No.
If you don't have the fossil fuel or the dispatchable energy sources, as Dr. Abesekara said, won't that be a problem?
No, actually there are technologies for that. You have to calculate the pricing. Now you have to compare 100 versus 20 or 30. So what you can do with balance 70 per unit? That's huge. You can have 2 networks with that money. So you have to have a very accurate financial analysis on this. And on the face of it, we are comparing 20-30 rupee energy source versus 100 rupee or 50 rupee.
Mr. Kumarasinghe, now you've been Director General of the Public Utilities Commission for several years now. In your opinion, what's the biggest obstacle to getting this? Because it looks like, at least on the surface, when for the public, it looks like, hey, this the government elected in 2019 was also, at least on paper, they said they support renewables. They want this much majority. The previous government elected in 2015 was also like, we support renewables. So if the resistance is not from the political quarter, then where is the resistance coming from?
Actually, I will give you an example from telecom. You will understand. What happens in mid-1990s in telecom, the fixed lines were replaced through analog, mobile, then through digital mobile, right? So the technology has changed.
It's moved forward.
Moved forward.
Yeah.
In that sense,
very soon there will be 5G.
Yeah, very soon there will be 5G. And in the electricity also, technology has changed from coal to fossil fuel to renewables. You are looking at a completely different world. So your business model should be different to attract that, to create a market for that. That's what exactly in the telecom sector happened, where a market was created, changed from monopoly to a competitive industry, and private investment came in, technologies came in, prices went down, and we had abundant amounts of bandwidth to make calls. Those days we didn't have. In the electricity sector also, right now, we don't have enough energy, scarcity, and the prices are very high. Now we have to move to a low price, abundant energy. So abundance energy should come from renewable and other new technologies.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is, the question I was asking was, look, because the CEB also can't do it alone, because the funds have to be allocated, right? Because what you're saying, if it involves setting up new networks, building new power plants, embracing new technology, there's a lot of capital expenditure that has to go on. Of course, that means that your recurrent expenditure on buying fossil fuel and coal will go down over the years, but the initial capital investment will be big.
Yeah.
And there has to be government support for that. Now, on paper, the governments, this government, previous government, have both said we support going more renewable. That's what they say in their policy statement. But for some reason, it has not happened. The funds, either the funds have not been allocated from the treasury or the agreements have not been signed. What is the obstacle? Is it the PUCSL? Is it the CEB? Is it the
no, it is not the CEB
who is obstructing it?
No, we can't attribute it to any single entity, but it is an issue with the current structure of the electricity sector. That's what I tried to point out with the telecom. What has the change was in the structure with the change in the technology.
So what you're saying is basically what you're, in singular we say Nokia kiyanne is privatization.
No, I am saying
or
reform.
public-private partnerships.
No, reforms. Reform can be from privatization to government-owned entities with more competition. Now, LECO is a government-owned entity. LECO is 100% government-owned.
Are you happy with the reform committee that was appointed by Minister Kanchana Wijayasekara a couple of days ago?
I have not seen the outcome, so I cannot comment
No, but
on
are
that.
you happy because the Engineers Union of the Ceylon Electricity Board is saying that reaching a decision within a span of 1 month is not advisable because it needs more time to study and it needs more time to analyze what this problem is?
I think to come out with a solution, even 1 month or couple of months is sufficient.
Right.
But implementation can be a little longer process.
Right.
Probably they are referring to the implementation process.
Right. So I want to come to Dr. Narendra in a bit, but I'll just quickly pose a question to Dr. Rohanda with regard to electricity tariffs being paid. How often can a member of the general public go without paying an electricity bill?
Once we give the electricity bill, he has 30 days.
And if he doesn't pay within 30 days?
We don't go and disconnect it immediately.
How long would you give?
So like 3 months.
3 months.
But
And in
for
the fourth
commercial
month you will-
organizations, it is different.
Excuse me?
For commercial organizations like
Yeah.
bulk supply customers, they are given like 14 days to.
So based on the CEB website, obligation is to make sure that all charges legitimately levied by the service provider needs to be paid by the members of the general public or any other institute or so on and so forth, right?
Yeah.
But how did a minister not pay the electricity bill since 2015, and how did that bill only got into the limelight of the CEB officials very late? Because you say 3 to 4 months, but the minister in charge has not paid his electricity bill for nearly 5 years.
Is it still the same?
No, I'm asking you, 5 years is a long time, it's not 4 months.
So there are places where we cannot disconnect
Why is that?
for obvious reasons, like
What do
maybe
you
the
mean?
security reasons, this thing. And
What is the security reason concerning a minister?
well, I don't want to go into politics here,
Yeah.
but like we are sometimes compelled to do certain actions. We cannot go and disconnect.
But if it's a member of the general public, you all can do that.
No, not exactly. We give like 3 months notice, and we have
so
followed the
the minister
procedure.
in charge has not paid the electricity bill for nearly 6 years. 6
I think
years.
we are talking about a premises.
Yeah.
So that has changed
12 million.
hands during
12 million.
during this period. There was a dispute. When there is a dispute, we can't go and disconnect. There has to be a procedure
For
to
6
be
years, they can use electricity without a problem.
followed. No, when there is a dispute, we have to first settle that dispute.
So in 2021, you all went to this minister's house in question.
I do not have all the details with me right
I
now.
have the details. In 2021 December,
Yeah.
you all went to the minister's residence to say to pay up the bill. And even since of late, after 4.5 months or after 6 months have lapsed, the minister in charge have not paid the bill in question. You all have gone and met the minister's wife.
I don't have those details, so I can't comment.
But isn't it one of the reasons, Dr. Rohanta, that the Ceylon Electricity Board is going at a loss when you all don't make collections properly?
No, it is like we have like
No,
average.
if I don't pay the bill, within 4 months you come and cut my electricity bill. Then no security reasons are taken into account and all that and more. If it's a president or a prime minister or a speaker of the house, I can understand the predicament because of security reasons that electricity bills are not being disconnected
The
because
official
of those with the official residence. However, when it comes to a minister's private residence, and if you all don't inform the minister for 6 years about
I think the house that you are referring is the official residence.
No, it's not the official residence. It's the Prime Minister's, it's the Minister of Health's residence that he has been occupying since 2015, where electricity bill has not been paid.
So, as I said, there must have been a dispute on
But
this
if there is
electricity.
general public who has a dispute, you all don't disconnect the line.
No, we have to follow the procedure, even the general public. So there are so many cases where we have disputes and we have taken the appropriate steps.
So has the minister now at least paid the bill?
Well, I don't go into that details as general manager.
Yeah.
So there are other officers and this,
But it has been settled.
to my knowledge, yes.
Right. So how lucky, how lucky I wish all of us are ministers and our electricity bills are not disconnected. Anyway, Narendra, now you've been with LECO for some time now. What changes do you see that needs to be incorporated to the systems in the CEB or even state-owned enterprises for that matter?
Yes, actually, Samir, now when we look at the act says cross-reflectivity of tariff.
Yeah.
But that is an imperative. Moment we say the tariff got to be cost-reflective, all our activities also should be cost-reflective and cost-referred. Everything, every decision what we take within an organization also should be costed and should be based on costing. So that is how the real cost reflectivity is being achieved. And that is what actually the Act says about the reasonability as well. The cost to be reasonable, how? Through the management structure. That there must be a management which looks into the cost of individual processes and individual activities, and each and every single rupee should be controlled. I think that is exactly how, I mean, as you once said, you are a part of a private company. I 100% do not agree whether it is private or not. It's not the question of the ownership. Every efficient organization all over the world runs by this simple equation. So ownership is not the problem. The process and the structure is the problem.
Right. So, Narendra, in the President's inaugural speech in Parliament, he says that tough decisions need to be taken.
Exactly.
And then subsequently, there was an event organized by the Advocata Institute, and he says that it's a bitter pill that we need to have right now because the country's economy is in a bad shape. What must we do with companies like the Ceylon Electricity Board, like state-owned enterprises like the Ceylon Electricity Board? Because this is the best time, opportune time to make a systematic change in the country, even when it comes to state-owned enterprises like Sri Lankan Airlines, Ceylon Electricity Board, the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation, the Lanka Engineering Construction Company, so on and so forth. What changes do you see happening in the next few months?
Actually, what I'm not very conversant exactly what the changes that the authorities are envisaging.
No, but the changes now, recently the minister in charge appointed a committee as well. Do you think that we will see a light end of the tunnel as far as these committees are concerned? Because overall we've seen the Ranil Wickremesinghe UNP-led government has been appointing committees and committees for a long time. But all these committees have not been able to yield any result. So will this committee also be another committee of this sort?
I don't believe as such, because actually this committee, the mandate, if you read the appointment of this committee, there's a very clear mandate. That mandate tells that 2002, the Act, Chapter 6, to be evaluated and check whether the appropriateness of that to be implemented as it is now. So that's a very concrete mandate. So that is basically an act which is being passed in the parliament, but which is not being gazetted and activated. So that is already a piece of law that is unfortunately not been activated. So the structure is there. The committee's mandate is only to review and see whether this is appropriate as per the circumstances today. So what that particular structure looks at that time as well as today is to, as I told you, the process efficiency to be achieved first by segregating the large organizations to be segregated into small business units. Thereby the processes become simple and the expertise can be procured, targeted expertise. That's number one. Number two, then of course it enables, but the act is silent in that particular process, it enables the management to look into these individual processes and make the individual processes efficient.
Right.
So aggregate, actually any company, any business process is the aggregation of this, the individual nucleic processes. Moment these individual processes become efficient, invariably the business becomes profitable and efficient.
Right.
Pardon me, it is not profitable, it's efficient.
Yeah, efficient.
Yes.
So, Dr. Rohantha, one of the issues that are faced by a lot of people in Sri Lanka at the moment is how state-owned enterprises are not being made profitable. Are you in for a privatization? Is that something that the Ceylon Electricity Board looks positively?
Whatever the name you call, so whether it is privatization, reorganization, we have to improve our efficiency. There is no question about it. We have to reduce our costs.
So when you say you have to reduce cost, tell me how many members, how many staff are working at the Ceylon Electricity Board at the moment?
We have about 25,000 staff.
Is that too much or is that too less? Or?
Well, I can tell only when after a systematic study about it. So like there are different views on it, but like from time to time there have been
so there was no systematic, there was no HR audit conducted at Ceylon Electricity Board.
We have a HR plan. We have a HR plan.
Right. Okay.
So like
the HR plan doesn't say that. It is
not only the HR that has caused this problem. So we have to devise efficient methods. So like we have to improve the efficiency of the people. It has to be the processes that we need to make efficient. So that is what I believe. There has to be efficient processes in the system. As people, they follow the processes.
Now, do you believe, my question was very direct, do you believe that the CEB is overstaffed?
I cannot tell it exactly.
What can you tell?
I cannot tell whether it is overstaffed or not.
Well, but you are the acting general manager of the Ceylon Electricity Board.
So like if I say overstaffed...
Aren't you the head of the organization?
Well, we have to make the system efficient. So after making the system efficient, only then we can reduce the staff. So we can perhaps stop recruiting new people.
No, because when I asked you about, when I asked a previous question to you about whether or not the minister's bill has been settled and whether it was a personal dispute, Dr. Rohantha, you said that I don't go to the nitty-gritties of that because I am the general manager of the Ceylon Electricity Board. But now when I'm posing you a question about something that comes under your purview, then you're saying that the efficiency has to be increased and you don't know whether or not the CEB is overstaffed. Now these are questions that people are asking.
I didn't say like that. Yeah. To improve the efficiency, we have to improve the efficiency of the processes.
Right.
So then naturally there will be lesser number of people required to get the required level of service.
So the employees of the Ceylon Electricity Board even would look at an employee redundancy program going forward in this restructuring process that would probably be proposed by this particular committee in question.
We have to give that option. So if you need the reduction of staff and if you believe that that is the only way that you can improve the efficiency, and we have to give that option.
So that is something that you are looking at very positively.
Even at the moment, there are people leaving CEB. Every week, the top engineers, they are leaving CEB.
Yeah, but now people are not leaving the CEB because of the restructuring program. Now because of the economic problem that they are facing, probably they are migrating.
Yes.
Yeah, they are not, or else they would have loved to be at the CEB because
the most required people, the people who can do some change to the system, if they are leaving, then what is the situation?
So have you taken this issue up with the minister in charge, or does the minister listen to you? The engineers union?
You have to speak to the engineers union. I'm
Yeah.
not representing engineers
No,
union
I know,
here.
but the CEB engineers union is part of the structural.
So whether the
aspects of
engineer
the CEB.
minister listens to the CEB engineers union, you have to ask from the minister or from the union.
Does the minister listen to officials at the CEB?
Otherwise, how can we tell our problems and whether government policy can be implemented?
Right. So you all have requested for a price increase of 229%. The Public Utilities Commission is going with a price increase of 75%. The minister in charge is saying that even though the price has been increased to 75%, even still the CEB is going to make losses. When will CEB make profits?
It depends what other factors like fuel prices. So as I said, 80% of our money goes to the fuel. So the moment that brings down, the year with a good hydro rainfall, our losses become very much less. Last year it was very much less, 2021, because that was one of the best years we had as far as hydropower was concerned.
Dr. Rohantha, if you can tell me what is the salary bill of the CEB looking like every month?
It's about like 3 billion rupees.
3 billion
Yes.
for a month.
It'll be about 25,000 people or more.
So you're saying the salary structure also has to change at the CEB, no? If that's the case, 3 billion is a lot of money.
We have to retain the technical people. So even in the private sector, even in LECO, the salaries are not different. Even at PUCSL, the salaries are of that range. If it is not so, they can speak.
Right. Let's ask Damita and Dr. Narendra. Now a lot of people are pointing a finger at the CEB engineers saying they are being paid exorbitant amount of money. Some are saying it's even going to around 1 million to 1.5 million Sri Lankan rupees a month. Now, if you look at 25,000 employees and 3 billion rupees being spent, that's a quite significant amount of money that is being spent a month on a state-owned enterprise, and which has to increase its efficiency at the end of the day. Are you all also in line with on the same salary structure? Because Damita and Dr.
Yes, I mean, actually, our case is our non-executives,
Right.
lower staff salaries are in par with CEB. They are more or less close.
Right.
But our management salaries are lesser than the CEB salaries.
Right.
But again, I wish to supplement what Dr. Rohantha said. When you want to procure certain skills, probably the market rates got to be paid.
Right.
Especially to the lower end staff,
Right.
you got to pay that money, otherwise people will not be there. But the question is, once when you get a person, to get the total quantum of work for the hired cost. That is the place where the whole.
No,
that's
but Narendra, interestingly, now in 2021, the CEB, despite making a significant loss, has increased the salaries of employees by 25%. Dr. Rohantha, based on the collective agreements, it has been increased by 25% in 2021, the salaries of employees.
Salaries are revised every 3 years, I think, during the past. So why CEB was making losses, or as you said, it was not our fault. So
Whose fault is it? Let's write. Okay, now let's come into the real question. Whose fault is it?
So if the generating cost is so much, and if you are charging the customer only this much, the difference, who has to pay? Either it has to come from the treasury or as a subsidy.
But Dr. Abhisek, like Mr. Kumar Singh was pointing out earlier, what is the reason that the generation cost is so much?
Because we are depending on the fuel. Even solar is so expensive.
But then whose fault is it that we are dependent on the fuel, on the fossil fuel?
No, we have to understand
No, because you asked the question,
No,
you
you have to
said the
understand-
CEB is not at fault, and then you said, when Shamil asked me, you said it's because, you know, generation cost is high and we haven't charged that from the customer. So then I asked, whose fault is it that the generation cost is high? Then you said, it's because you're dependent on fossil fuels. Whose fault is it that we're dependent on fossil fuels? And then you go back to we're going round and around the mulberry bush. So we haven't identified who's at fault. Because what's evident to me when looking at the actual numbers and what the reports that have been produced, the CEB's own long-term generation expansion plans, the Public Utility Commission's subsequent report from back in 2017, I believe, and even more recent research that has been done, it's evident that at the end of the day, it's those questions, right? When you come to who's to blame, you have to ask the question, okay, why is the generation cost high? Why are we dependent on fossil fuels? Who's responsible for our dependency on fossil fuels? And when you get the answer to that question, then you know whose fault is it.
No, who's
that
at
the
fault?
No, like,
Forget about all that. Just tell me who's at fault.
So like
yeah. Now you're saying, Dr. Rohantha, you all have told the PUSL to revise the prices in 2016, and then in 2014 you all have told to reduce the prices. Am I right? That's what Damita said. I don't know how you all came to that decision to reduce the prices when actually the prices should have been increased at that time. So 2016 you all have told, and up to date 2022 you all have not told them to revise prices. So now you're saying we are not at fault. Then who is at fault?
it is not a very accurate statement. In fact, when there is a price methodology, tariff methodology,
Right.
where the responsibilities are fixed, so you have to follow that procedure.
No, but then Damita is telling, is there a problem between the CEB and the PUSL? No, because once also there was a minister who came here and he said that there is a tug of war between the PUSL and the
They need to
CEB.
learn how to get along.
They need to learn how to get along. No, even in this discussion, I see some sort of apprehension.
So what I can give you is the tariff methodology, and read it by yourself, and you get who is responsible for what.
Yeah, but my question is, Dr. Rohantha, from 2010 to 2020, pay taxes have been paid by the government, or be paid by the people. Innocent people like us have paid the pay taxes of CEB employees. There is approximately 3 billion rupees that are spent monthly, based on what you are saying. On a monthly basis for 25,000 employees, that means averagely around 120,000 rupees is being paid per employee at the Ceylon Electricity Board at the moment. If you put that into equation, then there were ministers from 2015 to 2021 who have not paid the electricity bills, which has gone up to around 12 million rupees. Given all this, the CEB going at a loss is all part and parcel of this game, isn't it? Dr. Rohantha,
Yeah.
you're thinking.
No. Yes, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Like the tariff methodology that I've mentioned.
Yeah.
So there were 3 tariff periods. And 2016 to
Right.
20, there was one tariff period. Before that, there was another one. And now we are in the 3rd tariff period.
No,
So only in the 3rd tariff period, it was revised by the PUCSL and the CEB, agreed, to put the tariff, tariff setting process to CEB, calculation part to CEB. Before that, it was solely the PUCSL that was responsible.
right. So Damita, PUSL was responsible.
Now let me put it this way.
Yeah.
Now in 2013 there was a tariff increase.
Right.
Right.
We are all aware of that.
You all
2013,
aware. Then
it was
2014 there was a tariff
reduction.
requested by
CEB.
CEB. So with that, all
Because in
whatever-
2013, 2014, this was during Minister Partly Champika Ranavakar's time, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I cannot
there was an
exactly
operating
remember.
profit.
No. 2015. That's 2015. I'm referring to 2014.
Right. Okay.
Reduction. What does that mean? All the losses have been foregone,
Yeah.
right, before that. So 2014 you start on a new sheet.
Yeah, it's a fresh start.
It's a fresh start. 2015 was profitable. 2016 was a loss, but if you take 2015 and 16 together, you are still profitable till the end of 2016, right? Let me keep 17, 18, 19 out.
Why is that?
I will come back to that.
Right.
Right? You all know what happened in 2017, 18, 19, no? So 2020.
No, what happened?
No, I will tell you.
Yeah, okay.
2020, CB account says losses to 53 billion. 53 billion, and government has paid CB's full bill for 48 billion in 2020. So basically 2020 is also very much break even. 2021 is a 20 billion loss. 20 billion loss. 2022 government has pumped in 80 billion into the system. 80 billion. So 2020, 21 and 22 together till last month or month before, we can say the government has put in money into the system. Right? 2018-19 there were no tariff revision requests.
There was no revision.
No revision request, and
Was there a profit? Was there a profit at the CB at that time?
No.
Dr. Rohant, you can answer that if you want to.
There were no profits
Right.
into 18-19, and there were issues in data submission. There is a court case also on that, on data submission issues, and that was the one we discussed so many years ago also. So what I said at the outset is still valid. That is, organizations need to respond to the incentive, financial incentive, and also to the law. Unless you respond to those two, there can't be any existence. It is very simple. It happens to your organization also if you don't respond to the financial incentive and the law of this country. So it's the issue. So, and in the law it is very clearly stated that the relevant licensee to set the tariff. It's law. It's law.
So what I don't understand is now, Damita, they are saying to increase it to 229%.
Yes, final request is to recover a cost of 868 billion.
Yeah, from the people.
People.
Right. So now you all are saying to increase it only by 75%.
Yeah, we have increased it to about 500 billion.
Yeah.
From about 260, 270 billion.
What was the rationale? Because you now say that the licensee have to tell you all to increase prices. So they are telling you all very clearly to increase prices. And you all are trying to play a public propaganda campaign saying that you all are reducing this from 229% to 75%.
No, it's not that. And that is also clear that there should be only the reasonable cost should be passed through. Reasonable cost. So now this 600 and 860 plus cost was based on 24/7 power supply and 44 or 45 gigawatt hours per day, where right now it is around 37, 38.
Right.
Right? When you adjust those, it comes to around this amount. Number one. Number two, CB has not proven that this cost is reasonable. There were conditions imposed in 2013 on the proof of reasonableness. One is the dispatch audit, that is energy procurement audit, which has not been done. Number two, separation of cash flow. As Narendra said, separation of cash flow of distribution, transmission and generation, which has not been done. Then the bulk supply transaction account, which is a technical term, but it's a creation of an account, which has not been done. So what I'm saying is the reasonableness part has to come in here. It's not a public propaganda or anything. Yeah. We have to adjust for all those.
Because the chairman has quite been in the media the last few months, no, Damita. He has gone to courts. Then he told at COPE that the price of diesel and petrol could be reduced by 150 rupees. Then he was cross-questioned what his qualifications are at the COPE committee meeting. So he's also playing somewhat of a propaganda campaign, no? Is he going to contest elections or something in the future?
No, I don't think it's a propaganda campaign, but what you need to understand is that going to courts is to on behalf of the sector. That's a decision of the commission.
No, but at that time we knew very well that there was a problem with fuel and all that, right? The FR petition, when it was filed in April, we all knew that there was a problem with fuel purchasers to the country at that time, isn't it?
Yes.
So then mustn't the PUSL work closely with the Ceylon Electricity Board and even the ministry to ensure that you are coming to a cohesive plan to provide electricity to the people rather than going on your own footing to lodge a complaint at the Supreme Court?
No, it was on behalf of basically to get fuel to CEB to supply energy, because 24/7 energy supply.
No, but there was no fuel to give. How to give it to the CEB? How to give it to the PUSL when there was no fuel to be given out?
Then it has to come out, no?
But
I am referring in this was in March, I think.
Yeah, this was
in March.
Yeah.
This was in March, not in May, June.
Yeah,
No.
this was March, April, that period. So you all were not told that there was no fuel in the country.
There was a scarcity, but the problem is that as the regulator, we have to ensure that 24/7 power supply somehow CB should get. You remember in March we had to have 13-hour power cuts.
Yeah.
So that only Commission has decided to reduce the power cuts. We have to get some fuel for CB and other power plants.
Right.
Because as I said, we are dependent on fossil fuel.
That's the reason.
Yes. What else? 60% of the energy even today is generated through coal and liquid fuel.
So one thing, I think the one thing that's become clear in this conversation, and certainly from the eyes of the public, there are still power cuts, which means that the power consumption for most of the general public is less, let's say. And of course we know about the skyrocketing price of goods, inflation and the shortage of this, that and other. So on top of that, when you go and increase the electricity charges, obviously people are not happy. Now it's clear that there is a need for a restructuring of the CEB. And as you mentioned just now, there's this addiction to fossil fuels. So how do you propose that this restructuring process should be carried out, in your opinion?
I think 2002 Act, my thinking, this is my personal thinking, 2002 Electricity Reforms Act actually taken with some features relevant to this era. Now it's 20 years late. Embedded into it would be a good point to start, because in 2002 all these studies have been done. That's how this act came in. I was a part of preparing that act at that time also. So that act with some certain competition features introduced into it should form the base of the reform process.
Dr. Abhisekara, every single person, including us seated here, we have all taken steps, measures personally to reduce costs. A lot of people now use the bus. Some people cycle, put themselves through great inconveniences to get through daily life. Now, from the CEB's point of view, what kind of steps, measures are you all prepared to take to help and work together with the public as Sri Lanka is trying to cope with this crisis? At the bottom line is people are struggling to live. People are struggling to survive. And if they are unable to pay their electricity bills, this is a serious problem. So if you were to speak to a member of the public, what would you say? What would you tell them? What steps would the CEB take to deal with this and work towards a solution to this problem?
In fact, when we go home, we are also customers of CEB or LECO. So we have the same problem at home. So we have to reduce our consumption. Otherwise, this country cannot import so much of fuel. We have the foreign exchange problem. So, and also we have to reduce our load by having like rooftop solar. So then we naturally reduce our load on the network. So at the moment we have a very good tariff, 75 rupees for units over 180 consumers. So that is enough to sustain rooftop. So the units that you save is at 75 rupees a unit. So that will reduce the payback period of rooftop solar, and that will be very attractive. That's going to be a very huge demand from the advertisements we saw. I think there were a couple of very good advertisements put on the papers promoting solar and actually advertising for solar connections, solar sales.
Narendra, have you all taken a strategic decision with regard to renewable energy?
Yes, actually during the Surya Bala Sangramaya, we were going with support to the customers in getting their installations. That's actually we arranged a loan by our funds.
Right.
And in fact, we went into the technical support and lot of activities in support of that. I think now the era has come again to start that process, because now the tariff parity has been there, as Dr. Rohantha quite correctly said, because we got to understand here the rooftop solar contributes massively to this problem.
How many households are being equipped with rooftop solars after your initiation of the Surya Bala Sangramaya?
Yes, actually, offhand I don't have the numbers off the cuff. We have about 100 megawatts in LECO. It's about 12,000 customers, if I remember my numbers correct. In the order of about 12,000.
So it's 12,000 at the moment. If it has to increase to another 900,
yes.
How many households are you looking at?
Generally the size of the average size of solar installation is in the order of about 5 kilowatts.
5K, that's right. Okay.
5K. So if you look at 1 megawatt, that is 1000 divided by 5 is about 200 customers. So 200 into 900 sort of.
So there was some glimmer of hope after the hurried LNG power plant that was signed by the then government, which has now been toppled, and there's a new government in play under President Ranil Wickremesinghe. So even the construction of this LNG power plant has come to a standstill at the moment, isn't it? The ADB funded.
The Sobadanavi.
Yeah.
Yes, actually that is, I think, is some technical issue pertaining to the loan.
Okay.
I think Dr. Rohantha might be able to educate us more.
Dr. Rohantha, that has come to a standstill at the moment.
No, not standstill. It's working, but slow. Progress is slow.
Why is that?
The machines, it's handled by the IPP, so LTL company. So I think we don't have that much of information, but what I can say is it is progressing at a slower pace. The machines have been ordered, and they have inspected the machines, and they are due soon. It's scheduled to start generating in 2023 April, but because of this, they have asked for an extension for about 6 months.
So by the end of next year, we will see the generation of LNG.
Not from LNG initially, it is from the diesel initially. Right. Once the LNG plant is fuel supply is arranged, it will run on LNG.
So this has to be purchased from outside as well, right, Dr. Rohantha?
You mean the fuel?
Fuel and the LNG?
Yes.
Why not build renewable power plants? Because I recollect, if I'm not mistaken, a few years ago when Vidura Ranapanava, who's an environmentalist and also who looks at energy very closely, said that building solar power plants are very, very prudent and it's cost effective. And despite all that the government was moving towards, I recollect 2 years ago, Even Gotabaya Rajapaksa was to build a coal power plant to meet the energy demands of the country, despite the fact having in his manifesto vistas of prosperity and splendor that they will reduce the electricity from fossil fuels significantly and improve renewables at least by 70%. What is your take on this?
Well, we need to increase our renewable capacity. There is no doubt about it. So
have we looked at wind energy?
Yes. We are the first to install sizable in MENA, 103 megawatt, and it's generating quite good results.
Is that something that are looking at moving forward?
Yes, we want to start the next 50 megawatt there, and we'll open it to public sector, and we want to promote the wind energy as there is a lot of potential in that area.
In Sri Lanka as well, right?
Yes.
Damita, is that something that has come to your attention as well in terms of generating electricity in the country, wind power?
Yeah, actually, Shami, when you look at the renewables, the two most promising resources are wind and solar. So we have to go for wind and solar, which are proven technologies right now, and also which would be much lower in price compared to the fossil fuels right now. So we have to increase the share. This is what we have been trying to we have been saying since.
But why, Damita? Now you've come on Face the Nation for many times, and you've been pressing on the fact that renewables are the way forward. Why is it that the CEB not listening to you?
It's not. I think CEB not listening to us.
But who's not listening?
No, it's the structure. Listening doesn't produce any results. To produce the result, you need a conducive structure. That's what I said. Like telecom, you have new technologies, you have cheap technologies. To take it forward, you need.
So there is no conducive structure at the CEB to listen to the PUSL.
Not to PUCSL, but to respond to the financial incentive. That's what I said earlier. Also, Shabi, 60% of the cost in July is for generating 18% of the energy.
Let me ask Dr. Rohantha, isn't there a conducive structure at the CEB to listen to the PUCSL?
We give our plan, long-term generation plan, where we have everything. What percentage comes from solar and the additions wind.
In this long-term generation plan, Dr. Rohantha, you all didn't envisage power cuts for 13 hours, no?
Well, we don't plan for power cuts. But if the planned power doesn't come at the right time, then we have no alternative.
No, but don't you think
if we are
if we had
depending
renewables,
on
don't you
something
think if
we don't have control.
But don't you think if we had renewables, this would have been much better? The situation would have been much better.
It would have been much better, but we cannot avoid that. Because by nature, renewables, you can't depend on it. So when it is there,
depending very much on hydropower.
That is because we have built dams on it. That's made dispatchable. Solar, that's why we said we need to have a battery or pump storage.
But look at countries like the UK.
Okay.
Look at the Nordic countries.
Okay.
They are highly reliant on renewable energy.
Have they achieved the solar penetration that we have achieved?
In UK?
In the UK?
Of course they have.
I don't think.
They have achieved significant amount of solar penetration.
They have wind, but not solar to the extent that we have.
Yeah, but I'm talking about renewables overall, not solar per se, but renewables overall. They have significantly achieved their footprint in renewables.
We also have planned. We are
always planning, Dr. Rohantha. That's the problem.
Yeah,
we are planning
is the first
until
step,
the cows go home.
Planning is the first step, isn't it?
Yeah. We plan, but our implementation is very low.
No.
We plan. That of course is true. Now since 2002, when we had the Electricity Act, we've been planning. Now it's been how many years? It's been exactly 20 years.
We have proved with the MENA wind power.
Yeah.
That's about 103 megawatt. That has a plant factor almost like a hydropower. So that's a very good area for wind power generation. So if the government can give us more funds, if the donor agencies give us more funds, we can definitely increase the capacity in and around that area.
Look at what a pity we've fallen into, no, Dr. Rohanto. Now see, we never take electricity on credit. We have to pay it. After months use, we have to pay it. Almost apart from a few ministers who are very privy for not being paying the electricity bills, we pay the electricity. We don't take it on credit. We don't say we want 3 months credit to pay our electricity bill and so on and so forth. Look at where we are. 65 billion rupees in the first quarter of this year.
So I think the reasons were very well discussed here and explained.
That's the thing. The problem is, Dr. Rohanto, it's very easy to say electricity costs have gone up because of fuel issues and so on and so forth. Now let's take an example, Dr. Rohanto. Let's take a private company for an example. There are audit meetings, there are management meetings every month where we discuss a forward plan for the next 3 months, next 4 months. That's how private companies in Sri Lanka are at least being profitable. They envisage an issue. Look at companies who are doing billions of exports right now in Sri Lanka. What they do is they envisage the future. They know what's going to happen. As such, they build up a long-range plan to ensure that the objectives are met. But look at the CEB. 65 billion rupees lost in the first quarter of the year.
We have been planning our 20 years rolling plan.
Yeah, but 20 years rolling plan is good enough. But in January, when you all realized the fuel costs were going up, you all should have gone through a cost-reflective tariff structure. So you all didn't do that. Now that is what Damita is saying. You all should have proposed that. You all are proposing that at the 11th hour. Because the IMF or some organization is saying to increase the prices, if not, we won't be able to restructure your debt because you all will be paying, printing money and paying these institutes, and as a result of that, inflation is going to go up. Today, the bonds Standard & Poor's have downgraded Sri Lankan bonds because of all those reasons. You all are now constrained. Now you all are taking action. You all didn't take that action in January, Dr. Rohanto.
No,
you all didn't take that action in February. You all didn't take that action in March.
The tariff.
You all would have planned for 20 years and then you all sit and wait until not realizing that the situation is changing. It's ever evolving. We never expected COVID to come and hit Sri Lanka. We never expect COVID to hit the world. Then the situation changes, don't you think?
Exactly. So we have a tariff methodology. Every 5 years we file our costs and the PUSSL approves. Based on that, we revise tariff and we adjust every 6 months. That is what the tariff methodology says. So if that was
But now Damita is saying you all didn't do that.
Who is adjusting the tariff? Who is approving the tariff?
That's the PUCS, sir.
So you have to speak to them.
So, but now he is saying, now he's just next to you. He's more closer to you than I am.
Yeah.
Why don't you look, at least at this instance, look at him, Dr. Rohanto?
It's not the person that we have to talk. It is the institution.
Yeah, so you all have spoken to the institution.
Yes, we have.
But he is the executive director. He's the general manager.
We have.
Yeah. He's the director general who's in charge of operations. So
no, actually in 2022 tariff also, PUCSL has in January this year, PUCSL has written to CEB and asked them to submit a tariff for a tariff revision.
So you all didn't do it?
Yeah, in January. So based on that only these things happen. But the real issue is that even though we are talking about planning in 2017 decision, we have asked for 60% renewables, which that plan we have never seen, and then now the 70% renewable policy has come in. That plan still to come. So there's no plan for 70% renewable right now. So I don't know how we move fast enough to capture as much as low cost energy to make this make electricity affordable to the people. This is the issue with the we have. because
This is
pricing
the issue you all
energy.
have with the CEB. You are not saying that, Damita.
So
You are
how
saying this is the issue we have. We have this issue with the CEB.
probably now our issue is then how do we price electricity when the fuel is procured at 100 rupees a kilowatt hour, and we keep on pumping energy through fossil fuels.
Now your chairman makes a startling revelation. He says that the price of a litre of petrol and diesel can be reduced by 150 rupees. How did the PUCSL come to that conclusion? Because I remember several months ago when the prices were adjusted, Minister Kanthana Wijayasekara said that even diesel, petrol was being sold 1 rupee. There was a loss to the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation of 1 rupee. Either it's diesel or petrol, I can't recollect correctly. But your chairman is saying that a litre of petrol and diesel can be reduced by 150 rupees.
No, actually,
how did he come into that equation?
Actually, he based his statement on the custom declarations of the importation of fuel.
Okay.
So I don't. I think if the custom declaration is right, the statement is right.
Yeah, because at one point he says it could be reduced by 150 rupees, and in another paragraph he is saying that it can at least be reduced to 100 rupees. So even he is not sure.
No, it depends on the fuel, no, Shami.
Yeah.
Now, if you say furnace oil, it is different to diesel, different to petrol. So it depends on the fuel.
Right.
So I think he made the statement based on the custom declaration.
Why can't we have a electricity price formula?
Actually, the methodology is the price formula. So you can adjust it any frequency whatever you need. See, either 6 months or 1 year or quarterly, whatever the way.
Dr. Arindra, isn't that the best way to move forward?
No, it is there actually. What Damita said is absolutely correct. What we call tariff methodology,
right?
In common man's terms, it's the price formula. It's there, and even the frequency of changing is there. Every 6 months we got to do this change, and you know, Samir, if you start doing that, that will be an interesting process because tariff making is never going to be accurate. It is kind of.
But why aren't we doing it? Who is responsible to do this? Who is supposed to put this proposal forward?
The utilities got to put forth the proposal, and the Public Utilities Commission got to approve. It's
when you say utilities
process.
have to put this proposal, you are saying the CEB.
CEB and LECO both. So we have to put forth.
So have you all jointly worked together in a proposal like LECO and CEB? Because you're also responsible.
Yes, definitely. Because
Dr. Narendra.
This tariff is called the UNT, Uniform National Tariff.
Right.
So with that, the Uniform National Tariff got to be set up in conjunction of all the utilities. So we give all our cost and we supply all the information which is required to make the tariff, as well as we adjust the tariff, the bulk supply tariff we adjust. But the Uniform National Tariff is more of a national issue which got to be done in conjunction with all the parties.
So you all don't propose to the PUCSL with regard to any tariff increases?
No, unfortunately we cannot because it's a national tariff.
Right. So that has
we
to
are,
come
we are
from
only
the
1/10 of the country's distribution sector.
Right.
So we cannot
So
properly
when you
tariff.
look at this, all the fingers are pointed at the CEB, Dr. Rohant.
No, all the utilities that LECO and CEB, we have to, now we are talking about the present tariff methodology.
Yeah.
According to that, yes, CEB and I'm not sure whether LECO also has a responsibility there. Yes. So we have to calculate and propose.
So you all will do it now, from now onwards?
In fact, the 2021, late in October only this methodology was out. So soon after we started our processes. So
that process takes some time, no, Dr. Rohant?
Yeah, all these calculations take some time.
Yeah.
And that's the tariff setting process was initially in the CEB, and that was taken to the PUCSL, So we had to dismantle our staff for other jobs. So we had to, the know-how.
Are there any accountants working at the CEB? Or audit committee, audit?
What do you want me to say?
No, I don't know. You tell me, because you say to do a price formula, if it takes months and months, what's the point of having an accountant?
That's maybe your understanding of these tariff processes. It's a long study. It has to be like the load profiles and various other things.
So don't all have the data inbuilt in the system itself? Because now,
when all of a sudden it was transferred to CEB,
yeah.
So we had to start that process all over.
So you all don't have a team to do that?
We have set up a team, and that's how we got it.
Right. So you all took from 2021, from October, you all took up to now to come into a conclusion about the tariff structure.
No, we proposed somewhere in February.
But that has not gone to the PUCSL.
It did.
But he is saying no.
It did.
No, this is actually the March one.
The March.
March one.
Okay,
They have decided to process the March one.
Okay.
After which the rupee was floated and several fuel increases were made.
But Dr. Randa, what is the way forward now? We know CEB as a state-owned enterprise is making losses. You are trying very hard to defend the management of the CEB as well. Your life should be much more easier than this. It should be an easy run. Come here and say, guess what, we've made a big profit. That should be your role. Your role shouldn't be, plunging you into an abyss, just like the country's economy.
Look at all world over. Everywhere the cost of electricity has gone up. So this is a difficult year for everybody. Even US, the prices have gone up. So like, if you have this cost reflective tariff, only the cost adjust itself. You have to listen to the market forces and adjust the tariff accordingly. So then only we have the incentive to save, conserve energy.
Dr. Luanda, you said look at the world over. Now, looking at the world over, we know that many countries use smart meter readers. We are in a country where we still depend on these meter readers going from house to house and reading meters. There's a need for innovation, don't you think? Isn't that some way that we can remedy this cost issue?
We also have smart meters installed. In fact, we've got some meters from the LECO and Teleco, and we have installed.
Now, LECO is manufacturing meters, right?
Yes.
Why are you all in that business?
Sorry?
Why are you all in that business?
Actually, it was it was a long held story in 2007 somewhere. There was a scarcity of meters in Sri Lanka, and ministry gave us the responsibility to manufacture meters. So we went into the process, and within about, I think, 4 or 5 years, we converted that factory to smart meter factory. So at the moment, we are manufacturing meters, smart meters in the country.
So how many meters have you installed thus far?
In LECO or?
In LECO, in those regions.
Yes, actually, we have about 600,000 customers. So full smart meters, we are having about 50,000 at the moment. And we are having almost about 400,000 the electronic meters.
So you mean to say that personnel don't visit these houses to understand the meter readings?
That is only 50,000. The communication enabled meter is only 50,000.
Right.
But the electronic more accurate and more data savvy meters, we have quite a lot.
So at least is that venture a profitable venture for you all?
Yes, it is profitable, and it's the way forward. You know, it's not only, we should not look at it in the context of not sending this meter reader. Even beyond that, this modern innovative tariffs cannot be implemented with a proper meter in place. This tariff, what we see is a very archaic type of tariff at the moment. So this sector cannot be driven into efficiency with this sort of tariff structures. We got to go into innovative tariff. Those innovative tariff cannot be implemented without the proper meter in place.
Right.
So the meters beauty is not for not the meter, the exclusion of the meter reader, strictly speaking. Why that people go for smart meters is not strictly to get rid of this meter reader. It's much, the story is much more than that. Unless you have a proper smart meter, it's our weighing scale, isn't that so? So unless we have that data savvy meters, we cannot implement innovative tariff structures.
So we have a question for you, Dr. Narendra. The question is, the price of fixing solar is now increasing rapidly. Can the government institution innovate to fix a maximum pricing level, which in turn will increase the private households to fix a rooftop solar?
Again?
The price of fixing solar is increasing. A solar panel is increasing. Can the government institution innovate to fix a maximum retail price, which in turn will increase the private households to fix a rooftop solar panel?
Yes, that's a good idea. I think what it sounds is that the price regulation sort of for the rooftop installations. So that's probably just like Surabala Sangrami. I always feel like now we are at the verge of another program of that nature. So probably that's a brilliant idea to incorporate into the formulation of such a program.
But now, Dr. Narendra, there is a system where even from the rooftop solar, you can install a battery, and through the battery you can use convert it into electricity when there is power outages.
Yes, exactly.
How much does that cost?
That generally, to be very frank with you,
a 5K. I'm just talking about a 5K normal household.
To be frank with you, present prices I'm totally clueless. But if I look at the prices before this whole crisis, we were looking at about 200,000 rupees per kilowatt hour. Sorry, per kilowatt of installation.
That's approximately with fixing and all that comes up to around 1 million Sri Lankan rupees.
Exactly. And per 1 kilowatt, the battery requirement is also in the order of about 100 to 150,000.
Right.
So we are looking at sort of increase of cost by about 50 to 75%.
50 to 75%?
Yes, increase once when you put the battery.
Right, okay.
Yes. I mean, not just increase.
Right.
You are putting another major component in the picture.
So let's say the entire process will be around 1.9 million?
1.5, 1.6.
Yeah. So won't that make the life of the CEB easier?
Easy as well as difficult.
Right.
Because that is what we traditionally call grid diffraction.
Okay.
So basically our customers are going out of us. Isn't that? So basically the customers they generate by themselves, and as Dr. Rohanta said, still customers will be with us because they cannot generate at night. Moment the guy puts a battery, he is independent.
No, but at least it addresses a fraction of the problems.
That is the point. Grid diffraction is naturally for a utility is a pain. But on the other hand, that is two things comes together with grid diffraction. One thing is disruptive technology to utilities. Utilities get challenged. LECO get a challenge. Once now customers start going out of our network.
So we are getting messages on the number 0766565353. So some are saying that the app that has been installed by LECO as far as smart meter reading is concerned is functioning properly. So kudos to you, Dr. Narendra, for putting up a good show as far as the smart meter readings are concerned. And thank you very much, Sharon, for posing that question as well, initiate itself. And then one of the viewers are saying that the 5K system with battery and solar panel is about 2.2 million Sri Lankan rupees.
Now, yes,
it's very significant.
Yes, could be, yes, that could, because we see now sort of 1.5 to 2 times increase is there now with this present pricing. That is there, but still that battery idea is always should be encouraged within this utility context because of two things, as I told you. One thing is the pain of CEB being taken off in serving these customers.
Right.
On the other hand, it's a disruptive technology to utilities. Disruption is always good.
Disruption is always good.
Though painful, it's good.
But the CEB don't like the disruptions, no, Dr. Rohantha?
I would say, like, rather than investing on batteries, if they invest that money also on solar panels, the country would be better off, because the lifetime of the battery is maybe 2 years, 3 years.
2 years,
So,
3 years.
yeah.
That's a very limited amount of time. No?
So, like, if you invest that amount and you need to replace that battery in every 3 years, see the cost to the nation.
No, but I want some clarity on that, Dr. Anand. So these batteries are only usable for 2 to 3 years.
Depends on the battery technologies. It is lithium poly, because there are quite a few battery technologies. So if you go for lead acid sort of batteries, true enough, it will be short lifespan. But if you go for lithium polymer or advanced batteries, the lifespan can be
10
increased.
years.
Right. So
It will be 10
what is
years,
the
yes.
advice you have now who are watching this show tonight?
Yes.
What is the advice you have? Are you saying that putting up solar panels is the way forward, or are you saying that putting up solar panels with batteries are the way forward? Let's come into a common consensus at least now on this matter.
I would
Because we
say,
know that
like,
we can come into a common consensus with regard to pricing, but at least on this. Yeah, Dr. Rohantha?
Putting up batteries to solar will solve a individual's problem, but putting more solar will solve national problem.
Right. What about what is your take, Damit?
My take is that more solar and battery. Now this 2.2 million range battery, I think, is the lithium-ion battery,
Lithium poly, yeah.
which has about 5,000 cycles, which is about, if you discharge it every day, which is about 10 years. 5,000 cycle
Yes.
means.
So we have
More than 10 years. Yes.
So and the other thing is people will take the decision on their finances. Now the higher bracket of domestic consumers, the tariff is 75 rupees a kilowatt hour. You compare that 75 against the battery solar, people will take the decision.
So, just to get some clarity on this, Dr. Rohantha, how much is a generation cost per unit? CEB?
Based on the tariff proposal that we have submitted, on average,
No,
it
no,
will be about
before.
32 rupees
32 rupees averagely.
on the tariff that is approved, that is in March. But
The
it is
March
much
ones?
higher.
Yeah, 32
as
rupees.
according to the prices that fuel is now, it's much higher. It's about
So, Dr. Narendra, how much are you buying a unit from the CEB?
Offhand, I can't remember because now the BST is at a revision.
Yeah.
So we are buying almost the grid parity.
So that means lower than the generation cost.
No.
very much lower.
No, now until the BST is revised.
No, because now these are questions that people are asking.
No,
I
no.
just got a question saying
Yes.
that, Shamir, why are you trying to put Dr. Rohantha in a spot? Even Dr. Narendra is responsible for the current crisis that the CEB is facing, because you all are not purchasing at the generation cost. You all are buying much more lower. Am I right, Dr. Rohantha?
No. The BST, remember the UNT is not adjusted, but the bulk supply tariff is continuously being adjusted. All these years, every 6 months, the price is adjusted. That price is there with the cost reflective.
Dr. Rohantha, you want to say something to that?
Yeah, the BST tariff is adjusted,
Yeah.
but it's never closer to the generation cost.
Yeah, it's much lower.
Yeah,
When you say lower, how much lower?
I don't have the figures right now.
So
What is the rate that you have
Because it's a complex rate, no? The daytime rate and the nighttime rate, there's some capacity charge.
No, but there has to be a mean average, no? A mean average.
Whatever the price that CEB has given to us, public utilities has approved, we have paid. Even future we will do so. So now if the price, so I am buying electricity from CEB, the price that they say, I pay. If you go to supermarket, buy an apple, and subsequently if the supermarket comes and say that you guys have not paid the cost of apple, that's a different story. So bulk supply tariff is every 6 months being adjusted, and that is been we pay that tariff. So how that the generation cost and the bulk supply tariff being deferred is again the question of this tariff methodology, if it's ever differed, but I think that was more or less all right.
Dr. Rohanta, you want to add anything?
We have to compare with the actual figures. Like
We have to compare with
the
actual figures. I fully agree with it. I mean,
Yeah.
So,
So when,
Actual
you say,
figures-
so when you say LECO is profitable, there are big question marks there as well. If you are buying, you're
in fact,
only
this-
one unit, only one section of LECO is profitable,
in fact, this
and that section of the CEB is also profitable.
LECO is entirely that section.
Yeah.
We are distribution.
Yeah, but that distribution sector CEB is profitable as well.
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
in fact, when these methodologies were formulated, so only for the initial period, the UNT was there, Uniform National Tariff.
Right.
If somebody is profitable, they have to give that profit back to their customers. So it is not national tariff. So depending on the distribution division, we have different tariffs. So that is how it was proposed, and then that is how the competition can be maintained.
Because it's very easy, Dr. Narendra, to be profitable if you're buying at a lower.
No, that's wrong. That's wrong. If you want, I can correct you.
Yeah.
Actually, how this utility sector, this may be interesting for public
So
as
these
well.
are these are questions that are posed
Yeah.
by the viewers.
No, I think this
who are
explanation
learned
will be important.
men and women who are
Yeah.
watching the show. Yeah.
Yes, it will be important for the public to understand how this utility
Right.
sector is being run. Actually, how it runs is the Public Utilities Commission regulate the cost of the utilities.
Right.
So all the approved costs will be paid. If a utility wants to make a profit, then they have to do cost control, and within the approved cost, they have to earn a profit.
One final question. I think Dr. Rohanta or Dr. Narendra can speak here. How much do you all pay solar, which is in excess? Now, let's say there is a individual household which has solar, and when they're providing it to the national grid, how much does the CEB?
I'll answer.
We
I'll
pay,
answer.
okay.
Actually, there are three schemes: net metering, net accounting, and net plus. In net metering, we don't pay. Excess is accounted for, but that person's excess will not be paid. Net accounting and net plus, the excess is paid at the rate of 22 rupees at the moment.
Right.
That tariff is to be revised, but until at the moment the prevailing tariff is 22 rupees.
Right. So 23 rupees is
Is
being
paid for those two schemes. The first scheme is inherently, the idea is not to pay. He can aggregate his generation
Right.
for the future usage, but will not be paid. If you want to get paid, you got to migrate into one of those other schemes.
So one final question to all three gentlemen before we go in for a short commercial break. How serious is sustainability, the buzzword sustainability in Sri Lanka is as far as power generation is concerned? Dr. Rohanta? Is that a serious word?
Yes.
When you say sustainability?
We have to maintain sustainability. The energy sector has to be sustainable. So the single buyer, that is the Ceylon Electricity Board, the transmission licensee has to be sustainable. So then only we can pay the IPPs. At the moment we have large amounts to be paid. Renewable energy, we have about 30 billion or 28 billion to pay. IPPs even higher. So the sector cannot be sustainable without a proper tariff.
Damodar?
Actually,
Sustainability?
sustainability is the key issue here, because sustainability has many aspects. One is the financial sustainability. Other one is the affordability for people, financial sustainability of the utilities and the affordability for people. Now the current tariff is set for about 37 gigawatt hours. If you are to supply 24/7 at full strength, we are looking at 45-48 gigawatt hours per day. If you price at that point, then this affordability and sustainability issues will both come in.
Yes, I think that topic is been reasonably explained. I wish to expand it a wee bit to say that sustainability includes environmental sustainability as well. So energy sector got to look into that environmental sustainability aspect as well.
That's an important component when we speak about sustainability overall, right? Dr. Narendra? Right, super. So we're going for a short commercial break. Thank you very much for posing your questions to our panelists on 0766565353. You can also get in touch with me on my Twitter handle at ShamirFTN. And we're going for a short commercial break. When we come back, it's the final round. Stay connected, stay with Face the Nation. We will be right back.
පවතින සමාජ දේශපාලන ආර්ථික අර්බුද හමුවේ අපි කොහොමද ඉස්සරහට යන්න ඕන?
මගේ මතය තමයි ලංකාවට අයිති භූමි ප්‍රමාණයක් විදේශීය සමාගමකට දෙනවා කියන එක. ඒක වැරද්දක් නෙමෙයි. හැබැයි විදේශීය රටකට දෙනවා කියන එක ගැටලුවක්.
රජයට අයිතිකාරයෙක් නැහැ. එයා ගන්න අවුරුදු 5 තුල එයා කරන ප්‍රොජෙක්ට් වලට ගන්න ලෝන් වලට එයා වගකිය යුතු නැහැ. එතනින් පස්සේ එන කෙනා තමයි වග කියන්නේ. අන්න එතනින් හැදෙන්නේ.
ඔබතුමා දැක්ක රටේ දැවෙනම ප්‍රශ්නේ මොකක්ද අපිට තියෙන්නේ?
අපිට දැන්ට පේනවා පෝර ප්‍රශ්නය පේනවා, කෝවිඩ් ප්‍රශ්නය පේනවා, ඩොලර් ප්‍රශ්නය පේනවා, තෙල් අර්බුදයක් පේනවා. මේවා තමයි දැන් අපිට පෙනෙන ප්‍රශ්න.
ඇයි එහෙම දේවල් කරන්න උත්සාහ ගන්න?
අපිට හොඳ විදුලි ජනනයක් සුනම් බලය මගින් කරන්න පුළුවන්. අතක මේ තාක්ෂණය ලෝකයේ විශාල විදිහට මේකේ පිරිවැය අඩු වී කියනවා.
මගේ වගකීමක් තියෙනවා මේ පුටුවේ ඉන්නකම් එක මිනිස්සෙක් හරි මේකෙන් බේරගන්න. ඒක තමයි මගේ දැක්.
ජනතාව තමයි අවස්ථාව දීලා
තියෙන්නේ. මොහුගේ අයිතිය පැහැදිලිවම. ඒකට බලපාන අර ඔය කලින් කිව්ව දේශපාලන සංස්කෘතියක් නැතිකම තියෙනවා. ඒක අවසංස්කෘතියක්. සහ දේශපාලන සාක්ෂරතාවයක් නැතිකම.
මේ රටේ මිනිස්සු තෝරපු 225ක් මේ ඉන්නේ. ඒ කියන්නේ මේ අපේ හැඟීම් 225ක් තමයි මෙතන තියෙන්නේ. දැන් අපි හැඟීම් වෙනස් කරගමු. මේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට මීට වඩා හොඳ අය යවමු.
Welcome back to this Face the Nation. We are in conversation with Dr. Rohantha, Dr. Narendra, as well as Damita Kumar Singha, Director General of the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka. Before I go to the final round, a quick question to Dr. Narendra, because he spoke about the cost with regard to solar panels being given out. So one of the questions that one of our viewers are posing is, at rupees 2250 per kilowatt hour, no one will install rooftop solar with the recent devaluation of the rupee. It must be adjusted close to at least 36 to 40 rupees per kilowatt hour for rooftop solar to be feasible.
I think I also fully agree with the point. Got to revise it. At what level is a question of working out the costs and the payback periods. But definitely his logic is correct. With the devaluation, with the increase of the dollar, got to revise it. And actually, in fact, there is a committee already been appointed by the minister looking into this aspect.
Right. So thank you very much, gentlemen, for your thoughts on the Q&A round as well as the first round. We now move on to the final round. You get uninterrupted 2 minutes to recap or rebut or bring forth your argument in particular with regard to the way forward in Sri Lanka. Let's start off the final round with Dr. Narendra De Silva, General Manager of Lanka Electricity Company or LECO.
Yes, my take in this particular case is actually now the tariff been revised, and together with that there's a responsibility and a tag attached to this tariff revision that we got to make ourselves efficient, we got to make the costs reduced, and we got to keep this tariff revising process in online to be continuous, and we should render the benefit of that to the customers. By the time that we get ourselves more and more efficient, the cost should come down, and that particular benefit should be given to the customers by way of continuous tariff revisions. I think now I think at the very difficult period of the public, we have gone into a revision of tariff. So we must respect that. We must reciprocate that through such a continuous revision process as well as continuous efficient development process. Otherwise, I think we are not doing our responsibility to the nation. So my way of looking at it is, fair enough, the tariff is now being published. There's a very strong message to the entire power sector in this context.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Narendra De Silva. I now move my attention to Damit Kumar Singh, Director General of the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka.
Yeah, actually, the two main issues right now faced by the electricity sector is the high cost. Number one is high cost. Number two, scarcity in energy. We have power cuts. So we have to remedy these two. So for that, we need to have more and more renewable energy at a lesser cost pumped into the system. So with that, there are two things happen. One is the lower cost, other one is the stability in the cost. Stability in the cost is also important because renewable energy is basically the same price over a period of 20 years. Currently what we have is a fluctuating price, and the prices have gone over the roof. So we have to have enough energy at a lower cost. For that, we need to restructure, reform the industry, because the current structure has proven over the so many years that we have failed to provide sufficient amount of energy to the people and at an affordable price. Now we are at a very critical juncture where we need definitely reforms to get these two solutions into the sector.
Right, thank you very much, Damit Kumar Singh. I now move my attention to Dr. Rohan Tabesekara, Acting General Manager, Ceylon Electricity Board.
Yeah, there's no doubt that we have to improve our efficiency and we have to cut down our costs. We have to move to more low-cost generation and something like renewables, and as long as it is break-even. So, like we cannot totally depend on solar or wind. We have to have backups, and that is dispatchable energy. So we are sorry because we had to give this tariff as a shock because we did not meet this tariff revision from 2014. So that came as a shock when everything else was increasing. So we need to revise this tariff regularly to pass the benefit of these price reductions achieved through efficiency improvements and the reduced cost of fuels to the customer. So that is our wish.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rohan Tabesekara, Acting General Manager of the Ceylon Electricity Board. Dr. Rohan, you say that you all are sorry for increasing the prices haphazardly, but just look at what the people are facing at the moment, not even able to have a proper square meal with the current rising cost of living. And I think that the people are sorry for electing all these public representatives into power, and we are in this mess today because of all those reasons. Anyway, thank you very much, Dr. Rohan Tabesekara, Acting General Manager of the Ceylon Electricity Board, for joining us this evening.
We are sorry for giving this as a shock.
Yeah.
Had we revised this at a regular time intervals,
it would have been much more easier for
and
people
also
to
then
stomach
we
it.
get the feedback from the customers.
Yeah, so it would have been much more easier for people to stomach it.
Yes.
At least now it's going to be a little bit exorbitantly priced because their salary structures have not increased compared to the cost of living that is increasing rapidly in Sri Lanka at the moment. So thank you very much, Dr. Rohan, for joining us this evening on the show. Damit Kumar Singh, Director General of the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka. Damit has, of course, been a regular on the show for many years. Thanks a lot, Damit, for joining us this evening once again. Nice to have you on board. Dr. Narendra De Silva, General Manager of Lanka Electricity Company, LECO. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us this evening on the show. It's always important to have a public discourse about what is going on in the country, at least in terms of what is needed right now, electricity. So thank you very much, gentlemen, for taking time off and coming today. Despite the fact with the 20 liters of petrol, you all have to now safeguard to run your daily errands. Thank you very much for showing up on the show tonight. Thank you very much, Nadeem. Thank you very much, Shehan, for always putting up a good show and putting up a great panel to discuss and debate about the problems facing the public. I leave you tonight with a quote, as I always do. The best way to predict the future is to create it. Take care. My good night.